Okay, so tell me first a little bit about the context that your family moved to Ecuador in, how old you were when it happened, why you guys moved there.
Yeah, so my dad's in the State Department, so we've spent most of our life moving around. And I moved to Ecuador when I was either 4 or 5, so right after preschool, starting kindergarten. And we moved because of my dad's work. Is that where he was next supposed to work?
Mm-hmm. And did you have any exposure to Spanish at all before you moved?
Yeah, so actually 2 years before we moved to Ecuador, I lived in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
So from the ages of probably 1 to 3, and actually before that we lived in the Dominican Republic as well. So I kind of spent most of my early childhood, so when I was a toddler, around Spanish and exposed to Spanish, and apparently I actually spoke Spanish at around the same time as I spoke English. But at that point I'd forgotten Spanish, and I had this really clear memory of moving to Ecuador, and the only Spanish word I knew was agua. That was it. That's all I got. But I had definitely been exposed to it before and spoken it before.
Yeah. And so what are some of your first memories of life in Ecuador as you were kind of trying to relearn or get oriented with Spanish? What was it like to not be able to communicate with the people around you? I know it might be a little hard to remember being 3, but what was that like?
To be honest, I don't remember, because I remember not knowing Spanish, and then I remember knowing Spanish. Like, I feel like there wasn't an in-between stage. I'm sure there was, but I think the learning was so quick and happened so quickly, especially since my vocabulary at that point was limited in English anyway.
Yeah.
So making that transition from English to Spanish wasn't that hard. I don't remember it being so.
You don't remember the transitional period so much, though. Yeah. Do you remember culturally or linguistically feeling different from your peers at all when you were in preschool there?
Yeah, so actually I do remember, particularly in the context of, I think I was in kindergarten, and I remember being in English class one day, and my English teacher, who was Ecuadorian, kept pronouncing people, and having to correct her and say that, no, it's actually people. So it was interesting, because I definitely remember being almost more, just because I knew English was the more significant thing, even than me knowing Spanish. Although on the flip side, there was another context. I remember with my church, we went and served a soup kitchen one time, and it was me and a bunch of other little 6 and 7-year-olds, and our church youth group leader, or our children's ministry leader. And I remember sitting, and there was some presentation, and they were speaking in Spanish, and this woman was translating for all the little kids, expecting that we didn't know Spanish. And I replied to something the person asked in Spanish, and her being like, wow, I did not need to translate for you. That's so cool. And so, like, in the context of other English speakers, I was different because I spoke Spanish. In the context of other Spanish speakers, I was different because I spoke English.
So the church you went to, most of the population there was English speaking?
Correct.
And your family spoke English in the home, obviously?
Correct. We spoke English, and we had a housekeeper, nanny person, and various other staff who we spoke Spanish with. So it was a mix of Spanish and English.
What was your neighborhood like, your day-to-day life? What percentage of your time would you say was spent with Spanish speakers versus English speakers versus people who are bilingual?
Yeah, so we didn't have a super big presence in our neighborhood, just because Quito wasn't super safe, and so there's definitely like this element of isolation from the local people. And so in the embassy community, we mainly spoke English, versus when I was at school, we spoke a lot of Spanish, at least my friends, because actually in Quito there's 2 different schools. There was the smaller school which I went to, which had a lot of native Ecuadorians, and it was an English-speaking international school, but had a lot of native people, versus the other one, which was bigger, had a lot more international students. So students who generally went there didn't learn how to speak Spanish because their day-to-day life wasn't in Spanish, versus mine in the smaller school. Like, all my friends spoke Spanish, so I had to learn Spanish to speak to them.
Yeah. Did you ever find it challenging to transition between the Spanish pockets of your life and the English pockets?
That's a great question. Not that I remember, because I think they were both so blended in my mind.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I really differentiated very much.
Especially being that young. Yeah, that makes sense. When did you feel like you were able to communicate everything you wanted to say in Spanish? I know you said you had a hard time remembering the transition period there, but do you remember a point when you felt like you were able to, with your friends or at school, communicate fluently in Spanish?
Like I said, I don't remember
Yeah.
not knowing Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always, in my memory, I can remember.
Do you have more memory of milestones as you moved out of Ecuador and lost Spanish? Okay.
Yes. That was actually something I was thinking of. So when I moved back to the United States, I was in 4th grade, and I went to an immersion school with Spanish and English college. It's in Nova, called the Aquí school, and I remember being different because I could speak Spanish fluently and had an Ecuadorian accent. Like I sounded like I was from Quito, versus all the other little kids in the school had American accents, and I remember thinking, oh no, I have to change my accent. So I remember speaking purposely with an American accent and kind of dumbing down my Spanish to fit in with the rest of the other people. Because I was different, because I could speak Spanish.
And you think that attempt to kind of assimilate with your peers is what started the losing of Spanish for you?
Correct. Yeah, I was at that school for a year, and so I still spoke some Spanish because it was immersion, but that was definitely this is other. I need to distance myself from this other part of me. And then actually I moved to Cyprus, where I kind of completed that process because I didn't that was something I was trying to leave behind because it was different.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks.